I believe it's pretty well nationally understood that early childhood education from birth through 5 is very important to future success in life. So give us 90 more seconds about what you specifically envision as far as access to early childhood education, and of course, particularly as it pertains to Hawaii Island. 90 seconds.
Yes, we are attempting, I put a plan in for 30 schools to be able to participate on the public school side for early childhood development education. It came from the teachers and the principals in the schools throughout the state. Unfortunately, the senator saw to it we chopped 12 of those schools out, so those kids don't get the opportunity. We can go to community providers. You have family-child interactive learning centers, for example, right on this island right here and on the neighbor islands, especially for the rural areas. This is our opportunity to get principally women-based owned businesses, by the way, small businesses, to be able to participate as community providers to supplement and enhance our ability to deliver in rural areas for early childhood development. A child's brain is developed by the age of 5, almost 90%. They can't get that time back. If we go to community providers and for early childhood development education, we can cut the costs that would otherwise be from starting from scratch in the public school system from $120 to $50 million down to 75. We can lease in a consortium with other states and other school districts across the country to see to it that our children get the most modern devices and be able to have early childhood development and education. It is too bad that the senator is opposed to that. He is opposed to the constitutional amendment that will let us work with community providers and opposed to working with the community and cut the costs of delivering that early childhood education.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Ige, 90 seconds. Talk about early childhood education.
You know, I am a strong supporter of early childhood education. You know, I have 3 children, and I understood how important it was to get them into an early learning program as soon as possible. The challenge before us is really providing those opportunities in our communities, and most importantly, how we pay for them or who should pay for them. Yes, I am opposed to taxpayer dollars going to private preschools because I am concerned about the fact that the private preschools are not really in the communities where they're needed the most. We need to focus our resources, our limited state resources, on what's the best way to provide early learning opportunities for children across the state and here on the Big Island. You know, I've been a big supporter, and just to set the record straight, the Senate budget contained more opportunities and spaces for early learning than the governor's budget. We were committed to ensure that the majority or most of those children who will be excluded from starting school this fall would be covered, and the Senate budget actually provided for 600 more students than the governor's budget. I'm proud of the budget that we put forward. Unfortunately, the funding did not make it into the final version of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to stick with education. Senator Ige, you've talked about education. Your website says that you would completely reorganize the Department of Education, and we're talking about K through 12. So I understand we only have 90 seconds, so you can't tell us everything, but tell us what you plan to do.
You know, as I said before, it really is about empowering schools and delivering resources into the schools and classrooms. We have heard surveys of principals across the state who talk about the fact that the current Board of Education and the current Department of Education is taking authority away from principals in schools, and they're directing more and more of this current spending on how it should be and what curriculum should be purchased and the programs that need to be implemented. I'm committed to empowering schools, giving the resources and the authority to the school level, because I trust that every decision about how resources should be spent that is made by a principal and teacher and community members at the school level is a dollar well spent. I'm not so convinced that a dollar decided by the Board of Education or the Department of Education can be as well spent as those made by those at the school level.
Thank you. Governor Abercrombie, you appointed the very first appointed Board of Education, so in 90 seconds, why don't you give us a short analysis of how you think that's working out and what you'd like to see different in the next term?
Well, my high school journalism teacher would have said about what was just recited, those are glittering generalities. I have no idea at this stage what would change in any substantial way after what was just said. The plain fact is that when the senator indicates that he's merely heard about something, I find it very, very strange. He was the education chair. He's been there for 29 years. He controlled the money. He says over and over again in the Ways and Means Committee, why didn't he make the reforms that he's talking about? Why hasn't that moved forward? Why is it only coming up now in the course of a political campaign? We've been doing, not hearing about it and thinking about it, we've been doing. The Board of Education has moved on all of these areas. We have a core standard curriculum now that is meeting the standards so that our children in the 4th grade, for example, have their math scores and reading scores rising. In the 8th grade, they're rising. We are finding now that we have the opportunity in our with our appointed school board to take the politics out of it, so that you do not have the kind of contests among board members that you had before. If the senator is saying that the present board members are not doing their job, I think is an insult to the people who have devoted themselves to seeing to it that our school system is rising.
Thank you, Governor Abercrombie. I'd like to stick with education, but I'd like to go to higher education. For around at least 30 years, the people of West Hawaii have been waiting for improved access to higher education. What is your vision, and we're going to start with Governor Abercrombie on this one, what is your vision for the University of Hawaii West Hawaii new campus at Palama Nui? This is 90 seconds. We'd like to know what you see Palama Nui being. 90 seconds.
Well, I don't have to see it. You can see it right now. It's coming. It's there. It's being constructed. It took my administration to come into office to get that underway. And that's an extension of the commitment I made to this island 40 years ago when I came into the Hawaii State Legislature, got on the Higher Education Committee, and began to make the investment in infrastructure and personnel at the University of Hawaii at Hilo with the idea that we would extend it over to West Hawaii as soon as it was feasible to do. Now, I went away to Congress, and I was able to see to it that we were able to get funding for programs from the federal level to back up what I got started and what my colleagues got started in the legislature. Again, the senator has been the chair of higher education. He's there for 29 years. He says he reads every line of the budget. Why did it take my administration to come in to get it going here on the west side of the island? It did because I've had a commitment that didn't start when I started running for governor. My commitment started 40 years ago, and I've carried through on it every single day of my legislative and executive life for this island, and for the college on the west side of this island is going to be second to none as a result.
Thank you, Governor Abercrombie. Senator Ige, what's your vision for the West Hawaii campus at Palama Nui?
Thank you very much. I am very excited about the start of the West Hawaii campus, because I think it's very important to the community. I have big hopes for the West Hawaii campus. It really should be the portal to all of the programs at the University of Hawaii, whether it be at Hilo, West Hawaii, or at the Manoa campus. You know, technology today allows us to deliver each and every program using video conferencing and interactive television and all of the wealth of technology, so that I envision the West Hawaii campus really being the portal to all of the programs, whether they be professional programs, master's programs, doctorate programs. It really is long overdue. We have been committed and working to establishing the West Hawaii campus for a number of years. We have an opportunity. We've broken ground, and it's just the beginning. I think the first increment will be very, very good and very important for our communities. But most importantly, we need to ensure articulation between all the campuses. We need to ensure that the citizens of West Hawaii will have access to all of the programs throughout the system so that they can pursue the education that they need to fulfill their dreams.
Thank you. I want to ask a follow-up question, 30 seconds only, to each of you. Governor Abercrombie, I just want to be clear on one thing. A lot of people on this island want to see Palama Nui eventually be actually a four-year campus. Is that in the cards? 30 seconds.
Yes, under this administration, we've moved to make four-year campuses at Hilo. When I was in the legislature, I committed myself as higher ed chairman to seeing that being done. I recall very clearly being criticized, why are you making investments on the neighbor islands? Because the University of Hawaii is a system. And I can tell you, not only will we have a four-year school there, but we're going to have residences, and it's going to be a college campus and a college village.
Senator Ige, do you see Palamanui being a four-year campus?
As I said, I think the real exciting thing is that technology allows each and every campus to be a four-year campus. The West Hawaii campus can be a portal. Using technology will allow us to deliver the programs to ensure that the citizens on West Hawaii have access to the full scope and range of all of the programs, regardless of what physical location it's offered from.